Hi, my name is Ryan Moore, and I'm here to talk about my criminal justice policy idea. There have been a lot of perils that have affected our nation in the 21st century. We've had the 9/11 attacks, Boston Marathon bombing, active shooter incidents like the Pulse nightclub shooting, Route 66, and so many school shootings. And not to mention, arson is becoming more and more common with the recent fires, just like the Holy Fire in Orange and Riverside counties. My idea here is that there are a lot of new threats in the 21st century that we really haven't seen before, and there are a lot of agencies that have developed different ideas for security. My idea is to create a commission so that all those ideas can be combined together so that the most risk can be reduced. My idea is to create a commission that's going to monitor the foundation. Of course, a prescribed standard set of security elements provided by law enforcement, private security, emergency management, engineering, vegetation management, information technology, and intelligence for locations that meet certain qualities of size, shape, civilian density, and valuable assets to ultimately reduce risk from various man-made threats. Security isn't just a sector of business, it is an actual societal and personal feeling. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is defined as having physiological, then security. So okay, let me explain physiological first. Physiological is basic necessities: food, water, sleep. Then it's like physical security, so one's individual safety. Then affiliation, so that's social relationships and all that. Then there's esteem, that's back on the personal level. It's a person's mental health. And then self-actualization is in a way idealistic, and a person is the best individual that they can be. And the important thing here is that by having security elements is that people can be able to develop good relationships and have good mental health so they can be able to be the best people that they can be. Security has been around for a long time. It's even in our DNA. We have nails. We defend ourselves. It's survival. But civilization-wise, we've built implements and stuff. One of the most prominent is the Great Wall of China. Protected the Chinese people against Mongol invaders. Other interesting implements include the Romans' use of geese in different areas. The geese, when alerted to different sounds, they would make squawking sounds, and the Romans would know that there's some sort of enemy movement. So it was almost like an early alarm system. Manpower-wise, people wanted to band together, that everyone had a part to play in public safety. The Europeans came up with the rank pledge system, whereby each able-bodied male would carry some sort of arm, be it a sword or any kind of other weapon, and they followed along with the practice of hue and cry, which is somebody shouts for help, people come to the rescue and make sure that everything is all safe and well. Flash forward a few hundred years, and there's a development of the Bow Street Runners by Henry Fielding. What they ended up was they were Crime Stoppers. They're not really Crime Stoppers. They actually responded to crime as it happened. It still followed along with that same hue and cry, but they're a lot more professional in their response because they wanted a more effective way to investigate what happened. So they become the first detectives, and they had served as a precursor to police, which was established by Robert Peel's Metropolitan Police Act. That was in 1829. That ushered in the creation of different police departments in America and all the major cities. And they'd be enforcing the law. They were a part of government. They weren't private citizens grouped together anymore. However, the security businesses also launched at that same time. There was the railway police and different companies like Pinkerton and Brinks and Burns, and even Wells and Fargo. Used to be a stagecoach protection agency, but now Wells Fargo is the banking now. So there are some similarities between private security and police, and they kind of feed off of each other. They both became more professional, but clearly the law enforcement enforces the law and they maintain order, whereas private security, they enforce company policy, and they also work alongside with crime prevention as well. In the 20th century, one of the greatest things with the private industry is that the Industrial Defense Program had been developed. It was in 1952, and it was a way of intelligence sharing. Intelligence has always been an important part of warfare, and that was the Cold War at that time. And it was important to include private industries in our national defense. So with that, military would share need to know, or they would share intelligence with need to know private companies, and then they could be able to help contribute to keeping the country safe. And then FEMA was also created to plan for and create responses for natural disasters, but it also ushered in the creation of different state and municipal, county, just all different levels and jurisdictions have some sort of emergency management procedure, or even an actual professional emergency manager to ensure that there is some sort of preparation response plan should any kind of disaster or peril happen. Stemming from that, there are agencies like CAL FIRE, and what they do is they warn about different threats surrounding fires, and also aid emergency management with keeping information on certain disasters that are going on. So all those different groups have their own different ways to contribute to the overall security of the country at both the macro and the micro levels. And all of those perils, the 9/11 attacks and bombings and shootings, all of that have all tested those security elements, and in turn, those different agencies have evolved those security practices and added new things. For example, law enforcement now has a presence at different events. If you ever notice at city events, there's more police presence. They act like a deterrent. You go to Disneyland and police are present at the different points of entry. There's also the incident command system that's under emergency management, and it's a way for the different public agencies to collaborate together. So police and fire authority, emergency management, and any other public officials, that they can be able to work together and respond to an incident, and hopefully not only save as many lives as possible, but begin reconstruction and other healing as fast as possible. As far as it goes as new implementations, the attack in Nice has demonstrated the ability for individuals to use a vehicle as a means of attack against large crowds of people. So an interesting innovation that's been used, and you can see at Disneyland even, is the use of planters to prevent vehicles. The planters, they have different trees and shrubs in them, and they serve as barriers. They don't look like barriers. They actually add to the beauty of the park and stuff, which is nice. And then buildings have also followed stricter construction methods to ensure that they're more resistant to different types of force. And then CAL FIRE and actually even the Orange County Fire Authority have put out different ways to educate the public on different threats to structures, including eaves, which are the part where it's the roof and the exterior wall, and protecting that in such a way that embers don't get in and the house doesn't start to burn. Same thing with vents, using a 1/8 of an inch spacing grate versus a 1/4 of an inch. The 1/8 has a better ability to block embers from going into the ventilation system and starting a fire within the roof. And then another thing is vegetation management, is how close plants are to a house and what kind of plants, like plants that are more susceptible to getting on fire versus ones that are safer. They hold more water and wouldn't begin to burn as easily. There have also been different newer security limitations with new technology, like the development of proxy cards, being able to manage access in and out of a building or any other type of property, whether it's government or for a private company. There's also information protection to make sure that any information for a particular property, whether it's about security or even just business assets, that those aren't compromised. Those vulnerabilities aren't something that people wanting to do harm can take advantage of. So the thing here is that all these new elements are great, and they have been able to save lives and property, but not all places use everything, and that can be especially threatening if somebody who wants to plan an attack, that they see that one place doesn't have that, then that's a whole crowd of people that could be vulnerable to attack. So the idea for the commission is that they would be able to get all these agencies to work together. All these groups need to collaborate, and together they can be able to reduce the most risk. So let's put it this way. An individual versus a team is going to do a lot more than an individual can. So for the commission, for the first thing, a membership needs to be created, and those individuals need to be well educated on how those different disciplines operate, as well as all those different types of security elements, so that they can be able to best decide what the standard should be. I'd have to do a little bit more research myself, and I know that if I were to work with others, that I could be able to come up with a standard. But as it stands right now, I know that a standard needs to be developed, but trying to suggest what that standard should be, it should be up to the commission to do that. And talking about standards, that would be the second thing. The members of the commission would be meeting together, and just based on all kinds of research and their personal experience, they would decide what the standard should be. And as far as it goes as locations, I think that the criteria should fall somewhere under locations that are described in FBI's study of active shooter incidents between the years 2000 and 2013. They identified areas like commerce areas, education environments, open spaces, government property, residences, houses of worship, and healthcare facilities as different places for active shooter incidents. I think that can apply to any type of man-made threat, that anybody could go and attack those locations. And alongside that, civilian density and within a certain shape and size of a particular area, and whatever assets are also in that same area. Then there should be a chief security officer, which is somebody that's the head of all security for a particular location. And then once somebody's been delegated that role, then they bring all those different players, so law enforcement, private security, engineering, emergency management, vegetation management, and intelligence. All those different players need to come together, and as soon as they're together, they can start collaborating. Next part would be having a security survey of the location, and they just make sure that they're complying with the standard, and if they see it fit to go above and beyond, they definitely should. One of the greatest risks of having a standard is that if somebody knows what the standard is, then somebody who's wanting to do harm can be able to better understand what elements are in play and where they're in play at these different locations, which is why I think that the standard should be to the effect of something that's more confidential. It's a need to know, so only these different players would know. The commission would know, and they're encouraged to go above and beyond so that they have more than just the standards, so they can provide the best amount of safety and security. So the commission would maintain contact with all these different chief security officers, and they'd adjust and even augment the standard as necessary. And as I've mentioned, the locations are going to be encouraged to innovate new ways so that the standard can always be evolving and always improving. So I think it's fair to say that Cal State Fullerton is a location that would certainly fall under a location that somebody would pick to harm. Granted, we are very safe on campus. We are lucky to have a police department and an emergency manager, as well as engineering. Our buildings are built nice and strong. The Pollock Library is undergoing renovation right now on the upper floors to make sure that the building is safe. And then there's this thing called crime prevention through environmental design, and what that is an area is designed in such a way that it has a peaceful appearance to those who come into the space. So whether it's people that work there or any kind of guests in the area, and then to any outsiders, it's not a place that they would want to disturb. It's, if anyone's ever heard of the broken windows theory, which is if there's a broken window in a community, then the community will go into social disorganization and crime will develop as a result. So having a well-kept appearance to a location is someplace that would deter criminals and also keep the people that are regularly supposed to be there, and that they wouldn't be so prone, or individuals that would be at risk for becoming violent individuals in the workplace, that they'd be more peaceful there, that they wouldn't be pushed into the direction of having those different ideas. Anyways, we have that on campus. You take a look at the Pollock Library, and a lot of our spaces are designed for collaboration and could peacefully work together, and that's that. We also have vegetation management and stuff. Our people that maintain the property do a good job to make sure that, God forbid, there's any fires off in the canyons or in the mountains or anything, that everything's well maintained and that the school is safe that way. However, if I've noticed anything while walking on campus, is that anybody could take their vehicle and drive around. And for me, that's a little bit concerning. And I think that something could be done about that. So my idea is to follow along with Disney and to have planners that are around the property and anywhere that have like a police vehicle or any of the facility operations people, or parking and transportation services. Any of those other vehicles need to make access, and they can have proxy cards so they can be able to get onto certain parts of the campus. But if we have planters, we can be able to increase the beauty of the school. And I also think it's an opportunity to have all different kinds of planters. We could have planters that celebrate our diversity on campus. And I think there could be a lot of art projects around it, show off our creativity and innovation as a campus community. I'll say Fullerton and other campuses and other locations, we'll all find a way and develop security elements and make sure that everybody is safe and can be able to improve their lives, have great relationships, and be successful. Perils and disasters can be overwhelming, but our resolve is so much greater than those that try to pose a threat to us. The commission, when created, is going to reduce the most amount of risk and therefore prevent loss of life and property. And my hope is that America is going to be a leading innovator in security, and hopefully all those different ideas can be able to keep everyone safe worldwide. Thank you for listening and have a great day.